Andy Robertson, obviously, young Scottish footballer now. He's been phenomenal this
Yeah.
season. What's your thoughts on him?
Well, I think he's a great example of. I was talking to somebody the other day. He was asking me about football and football careers, and very few football careers, football players, with some exceptions, have a career that kind of starts kind of at the bottom and then kind of goes in a or a whatever kind of straight line. Most of it's a roller coaster ride, bumpy, bits up here, bits down there.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Robertson was at Glasgow Celtic as a young lad, and they let him go when he was, I'm not sure, in his teens, and they let him go from far as I know because they said he was too small to be a professional football player. So I think when you look at what he's achieved, and again he left there, he went to Queen's Park playing part time. The last amateur club to be playing in professional football went to Dundee United. I remember someone going to Dundee United at the time from Manchester United. I think it was Warren Joyce, and he went along to see a few players that they had that were doing well at the time, but Andy wasn't one of the ones that was mentioned. He came back and said, "Listen, these players are quite decent. The other ones that young players have got, but this left back, I think we should go and have a look at him." Now that was nothing to do with the academy. That was to do with the first team. And then he left Dundee United and went to Hull, and then there's been no looking back from since then. He's gone on to win a couple of things at Liverpool. He is the captain of the national team. So I think if you look at the history of his career and the sense that one, he didn't accept the fact that someone had told him at a young age that he wasn't going to be a professional football player, and worked and worked and worked, and he worked very, very hard to get himself into the situation he's in, and he deserves a huge amount of praise for that, and I'm delighted for him.
Yeah, it's
And as I
testament
say,
of
people should
character,
be
that.
looking at him. And they should be looking at him to say, well, this is not always, as I say, my experience has been, there's a couple of notable examples, Ryan Giggs and probably Wayne Rooney, who have started from 15 and they've just went up and up and up and up and up.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose in world terms, I would imagine that, no, maybe not Ronaldo so much, because when he came to United, he had a difficult time. Maybe Messi, but as I say, that I think he's a wonderful example. He seems like a very decent lad, good character. So yeah, and then you want Scottish people to be successful. So
But it's quite nice, to be honest with you, to see young British players coming through, because there's all the talk of like the young British players, certainly English players aren't getting it up, but then you've got a lad that's proved it can be done. So there's nothing stopping anyone else doing the same, is there?
no, I think that's a smashing point, Rob, is that various different circumstances have allowed young players in prominent football teams in certainly throughout the world, probably.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will continue. That young play. I mean, you're watching the game, the Chelsea game, Chelsea versus Manchester City, and you see the Mason Mount, who has appeared in just about every single Chelsea game this year. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what you need to have brave coaches and brave managers. You ask any player, when did they make their debut, and what were the circumstances around that? Normally, it's because there was a need, there was a space available. A player in that position had been injured. A player in your position was suspended. A player in your position was ill. A player in your position was out of favour because of various different things, and the manager had very little choice but to let you have a go. And then it's down to the player, and quite notably in Andy Robertson's Mount's situations, Greenwood, I suppose, and has always done very well. I think when he's appeared for Manchester United, and then it's having that faith to let them have a go. I mean, they continually talking about it in the commentary from Stamford Bridge the other night about young players have been allowed, but that set of circumstances were dictated by the rules and regulations of the game. Chelsea were found guilty of infringing those rules. It was imposed upon them that they couldn't sign any players. So Frank Lampard was left with choosing and encouraging young players who he'd already had with him in his spell at Derby. So he knew all about them. He was confident that they were capable of stepping up, and they have done, and they'll go on to become not only very good players for Chelsea, but probably for England too.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I could include. There's a lot of young players, as you were saying. I'm thinking of like Alexander Arnold. You got Maddison at Leicester. You got Hudson-Odoi at Chelsea. There's a lot of these young players who are actually starting to come through, which is quite exciting.